And today, the time by Sagicor Life is
7 o'clock. It's now time for the Morning Watch.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org, and if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the main watch, what is next in making Portmore the 15th parish? And in the second watch, views on delaying of local government elections. For our social media question, we ask, what are your thoughts on the further delaying of local government elections? Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later in the program, but first, here is I quote.
Given is True Having by Charles Spurgeon. Good morning, Stokely.
Good morning, Brother Rasheen. How are you?
I am doing well, giving God all the praise.
Giving is true. Giving is true. Having, that's the I quote.
Yes, giving is true. Giving is true having.
Indeed, 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 indeed. The main watch. We'll be back after this break.
Man and man, you know what love language is? You know your partner's own? How much you understand about loving your wife the way Christ loves the church? Well, last week we brought you part 1, and because you asked, here's part 2 inside the program designed for men, hosted by men, with guests who are men. Tune in this Wednesday, February 9 at 5:30 p.m. with hosts Courtney Morrison and Kevin Bailey for part 2 of When a Man Loves a Woman Like How God Meant It, biblically speaking, with guests Dr. Michael Coombs, founder and chairman at the National Association for the Family, and American Darren Francis, marriage counselor and content creator at Not Easily Broken. That's the mailbox this Wednesday, February 9 at 5:30 p.m. with Courtney Morrison and Kevin Bailey, with guests Dr. Michael Coombs and Darren Francis, right here on the family station, Love 101.
He knows my name. Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the telephone counseling ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of global crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today. 876-220-6474. It's the telephone counseling ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church.
This is a reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
He knows my name.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are now in the main watch. Now, the Portmore is to be Jamaica's 15th parish. And it appears as if there is still some disquiet about that move. Now, what needs to happen to formalize this process? And where do we go from here? And why are there still some delays in getting there. We have online this morning to discuss this Courtney Edwards, Councillor, Southeast St. Catherine, as well as Raymond Price of the People's National Party and a member of that party's executive committee. Good day, gentlemen. How are you both?
Good morning. Pleasant morning, everyone.
Great having you both, sirs. Now, let's get right into it. Mr. Edwards, you are Councillor for Southeast St. Catherine. Tell us from your angle, from your perspective, from your party's perspective.
Well, before you go there, I'm the Councillor for the Independence Division, and that is within Southeast St.
Sir.
Are you hearing me?
Which division you said?
Independent City Division.
Independent City. Thank you for that correction, sir. We do apologize to you for that. Now, where are we standing now from your angle in terms of making Portmore the 15th parish? And why the move? Because it is well known that there are some facilities which are not in Portmore at this time, such as a hospital. These are the hallmarks people tend to look for when they are thinking of somewhere being a parish. We're not saying it is necessarily a requirement, but these are the expectations among the many. Go ahead, Mr. Edward.
All right, so as it relates to the hospital, of course, that was actually committed by the Prime Minister that the hospital that is to be built next in Jamaica will be built in Portmore. You know, but prior to that,
when, Mr. Edwards, when, Mr. Edwards, when will it be built?
Well, I would assume in that would have been an update from the Prime Minister himself, but in the near future, which I would not think it would be too far from here. But question.
You see, okay, a quick one, sir, a quick one, because we want to be as specific as we can in the program. Yes. We don't want to be general because it's about Portmore becoming the 15th. What date is that scheduled to be? Because you wouldn't want to necessarily jump the gun and you don't have everything in place.
Well, to be honest with you, I could not give you a specific date. You know, but I know the plan is to actually upgrade all the health centers currently. You know, in fact, the Waterford Health Center is to be actually removed from where it is now to a better location to facilitate greater services. You know, so that's in the short term. And all the centers across Portmore will be developed in that order as well. But this
okay.
Plan is new. This was a long time in the making. It is just that we are now actually putting it into action.
No, I understand that. I gather it's been about 20 years in the making and all of that. Well, in fact, I'm not even challenging the notion that it should be a parish per se. Yes. It sounds like a good idea. But we're just wondering if it's a little bit too early in terms of all the infrastructure. But let me ask you this quickly. In terms of making Portmore the 15th parish, is it that Portmore is intended to become a smart city of the future? Any comments on that?
And that is the intention. As you can see, the build out has started with that of the BPO, etc. So that is the direction in which the parish is going.
Help the listeners to understand what you mean by a smart city. Help the listeners to understand what you mean by a smart city.
All right. So, of course, in this modern dispensation, the use of technology is where everyone is going. And of course, even the work from home order that was actually implemented as a result of COVID, that in itself showed us that persons can actually work from home, right across the globe. So that in itself was a direction, right, to say online employment, of course, is paramount. But beyond that, the idea of smart city is where we intend to actually have investors built out Portmore as it relates to tech parks, you know, where youngsters, people of like mind and interest will be employed or geared towards these building technological parts. Just to get these islands more involved. As you get, Portmore is the largest dormitory community, you know, with a lot of youths all over the place. So the intention is to get these smart people to be involved in smart activities. I'm not sure if my audio is coming through clearly because I'm not hearing you very well either.
Man and man, you know what love language is? You know your partner's own? How much you understand about loving your wife the way Christ loves the church? Well, last week we brought you part 1, and because you asked, here's part 2 inside the program designed for men, hosted by men, with guests who are men. Tune in this Wednesday, February 9 at 5:30 p.m. with hosts Courtney Morrison and Kevin Bailey for part 2 of When a Man Loves a Woman Like How God Meant It, biblically speaking, with guests Dr. Michael Coombs, founder and chairman at the National Association for the Family, and American Darren Francis, marriage counselor and content creator at Not Easily Broken. That's the mailbox this Wednesday, February 9 at 5:30 p.m. with Courtney Morrison and Kevin Bailey, with guests Dr. Michael Coombs and Darren Francis, right here on the family station, Love 101.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. J&B Bank will help you find a way.
It's time to take your home somewhere unexpected. And at Active Home Center, it's our job to help you do just that. With our wide range of home finishes and on-trend styles, you'll find a great selection for your space. Shop tiles in different styles, contemporary bathroom fixtures, kitchen and appliances, the latest in furniture, lighting, and so much more. Visit our showroom at 84 Constant Spring Road or online at ActiveHomeCenter.com. Your one-stop shop for home finishes. Active Home Center. More savings, more choices.
Do you operate a business in the manufacturing or agro-processing industry? Sagicor Bank has a loan just for you. Sagicor Bank Manufacturing and Agro-Processing Loan. Borrow up to $50 million with up to 12 years to repay. Financing you can use to retool, expand, improve efficiencies, or gear up for export. Speak with a business banker today. Sagicor Bank Manufacturing and Agro-Processing Loan. Just another way Sagicor Bank is taking care of business. Conditions apply.
Massey Group will be 100 years, and that's significant. We survived all sorts of wild, crazy things that have happened. It's really thriving.
People don't just buy a product, right? They buy how you make them feel and whether your values align to theirs.
Massey differentiates ourselves because we believe that when we are all successful, the region is going to be more successful.
Learn more at burrito.com/Massey.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the main watch, and we do apologize for that slight break in transmission a moment ago. The online broadcast. We have as our guests for this segment Courtney Edwards, Councillor of the Independent City Division in St. Catherine in that parish, and we also have Raymond Price of the People's National Party and a member of that party's executive committee. Just before the break, Mr. Edwards, you were outlining for us the smart city concept designed or planned for Portmore. But let me ask you this quick question, because we're really discussing Portmore as the 15th parish. Does Portmore need to become the 15th parish for the rollout of a smart city concept? Couldn't it be done without it? Just asking. And secondly, while you're responding, just help the listeners to understand, maybe everyone hasn't heard, what would be or where would be the capital of the Portmore parish?
All right, so my answer to that last question is just as though Kingston is a small geographical area, And the parish, of course, is also called Kingston. So I would assume that Portmore would have its parish or capital as Portmore. And therefore, what would be the area of focus would be the business district that surrounds the various services.
Oh, so do you have a sort of geographical location already? And we are not forgetting Mr. Price, but do you have a sort of geographical location in mind?
Well, in my view, the area that carries out the chief focus or the chief business right now would have been the street where the tax office is, the 100-man police station, the new council building, you know, in that section there.
I see. Understood.
And of course, there you have banks and central plazas and so forth.
I see. Now, in terms of the smart city concept, it doesn't need to become a parish for you to roll that out, does it? So why?
Not necessarily, but it's a good opportunity at this time for this area in particular. The concept is being built across Jamaica, you know. But I'm just saying, at this time, Portmore would have been a chief beneficiary of such an initiative. And
okay,
let me just go back to
Mr. Price.
Let me go back before you touch Mr. Price, because the idea of the hospital, right, being a criteria. Yes, we understand that is a very important infrastructure to be put in for people of Portmore. We do understand and appreciate that, right? But I just want to go make a point, because we know for a fact that whilst parishes were created, I mean, way back by our colonial masters, right? We understand that if you look at Kingston and St. Catherine, for example, those hospitals would have come about 90 odd years after they were named parishes. I am not saying that hospital in Portmore would be delayed until 90 odd years, because it's a modern era we are in, right? But I'm just saying they were all created without having an hospital at the same time, right? But this is a commitment that is of course will pull through, right? We are long overdue in St. Catherine with an upgraded facility, right? So this is an opportune time for us to move ahead in this direction.
We heard you loud and clear. We want to bring in Raymond Price because there's never enough time on the morning watch. Mr. Price, good day.
Good morning.
We have heard Mr. Edwards. What are your thoughts? Because we gather that the People's National Party could have done this so many years ago as a government, did not do it. The People's National Party has some concerns about the current move. What are those concerns? And what would you want to happen before making Portmore the 15th parish, sir? Go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you. Firstly, as you said, there's never enough time on First Watch. So I would look forward to another invitation at some other time when we could speak about the historic precedents in the establishment of a parish and the devolution of a parish. Jamaicans may not know, especially your younger listeners and viewers, that at one point there were several other parishes, including St. Diego de la Vega, St. Dorothy's, and others. The issue about a hospital, well, I heard my colleague Courtney Edwards speak about that, and I won't redress anything that he has said. However, let's come to a more recent time. We have now the Parish Courts Act, the change from resident magistrates court to parish courts. And under the current law, if there is either a civil suit or for some criminal matters, that must be dealt with in the parish where the offense took place or the parish where the contract was signed. So if Courtney Edwards was in a business deal with Tom Brown and Tom Brown breached the contract, when Portmore is created as a parish without a parish court, Courtney would not be able to seek any form of redress before the justice system, because the law states that the suit must be filed in the parish where the breach or the concern arose. I hear of a person speak about you should have a hospital, and you should have a cemetery. But one thing that the present law of the land states is that you must have a parish court. So it would seem to me that it would have been neater if we would have established a court for Portmore prior to the naming of the parish. I want to place on record, however, that the establishment of Portmore as a 15th parish is not as controversial as many people may think, certainly not from my perspective. And in fact, there are benefits that could accrue from the decision or from the development. Having said that, though, some of the concerns that residents of Portmore have, and many that have been expressed by persons across the wider Jamaica, is whether or not you need to be a parish prior to getting the development. And of course, there are other parishes that are in need of the development. So we know that just the assignment of the title of being a parish does not necessarily mean that the developments will follow. Courtney, I think we lost our host. You know, all of a sudden I'm just seeing you and I. So I'm not sure if we're even being streamed to the audience.
I don't know, surprise, but even the audio is very low, you know. So
yes. Oh well. I see where Stokely is coming back.
Yeah. Yes.
But the issues also that you raise about a smart city, there are some steps, Courtney, that I believe can be taken now. You spoke about the upgrades of the clinics across the Portmore community. And of course, while that is welcomed, the truth of the matter is that we have seen over administrations before that a matter is said to be in the pipeline or that it will be addressed. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen. So I am not convinced that for us to get a hospital or for us to get other services, we must become a parish first. I, for one, though, as I had expressed earlier, Stokely, I don't have any objections, nor could I, because the establishment of a parish requires a simple majority in Parliament. The current administration has more than a simple majority. They have a significant majority. My issue, therefore, is let us have a proper schedule when the other amenities will be addressed. But certainly right now, as we speak on the 9th of February 2022, the law of the land requires that a parish court must be in place for certain matters, for citizens that are seeking justice on certain matters to be able to have their day before the court. Oddly enough, and I say this more as a tangential remark than as a serious comment, if you are using the cemetery, we have no cemetery in Portmore. If you're using the hospital, we have no hospital in Portmore. And if you're using a court, we have no courthouse in Portmore. It would seem to me that Linstead, which has all three, would be an easier pick for a parish right now based on those three criteria than anywhere else in the country. But that's just for those of us who like to look at what the actual requirements are and then make an assessment as to where those requirements currently exist.
Very interesting points, because you made mention of the court having a parish court in the relevant parish.
Yes.
And whilst there is a court building in Portmore, it's really an offshoot, if I could use that term, of the general St. Catherine court system. You know, it's not a standalone, and they don't deal with a lot of matters there. They would focus on the matters for which it is more likely that person's in that locale. You know, it's easier for them to get to that particular court building in Portmore, similar to how they would have just similar to how they would have other outstations in the parish of St. Catherine.
Right.
You see? Yes, so that's also a very important criteria. Mr. Edwards.
Well, let me tell you something, I'm Stokely, because I think we're both advocating for the same things, you know. There's no issue that the parish status, right, is due to Portmore on both of us. And
you mean Mr. Price and yourself?
Yes, man. He's not in a disagreement.
No, actually, it's
like everyone else, we'll advocate for
one second, Courtney. It's not a matter of agreement or disagreement. Today is Wednesday. Whether my favorite day is Friday or not, today is Wednesday. So I accept things that are factual to be factual. Yes. And those things that I cannot change or cannot control, I accept, and then I seek the optimal or the most ideal result. To establish a parish in the nation of Jamaica requires a simple majority in parliament. The Jamaica Labour Party enjoys a significant majority. So if they wanted to establish 20 parishes, they have the parliamentary authority to establish 20 parishes.
We will not be doing 20 parishes.
So the point I'm making
is,
the point I'm making is I'm not going to debate as to whether today is Wednesday or Thursday or Tuesday, because I know what the facts are. So I'm simply saying, as at the 9th of February 2022, it is the law of Jamaica that for certain matters to be redressed on behalf of citizens before the court, they must be done in a parish court. As our host Stokely has pointed out, what we have in Portmore now could only deal with what is considered petty session matters, such as if the police went to an establishment and there was a party which should not have been happening, and they seized either the sound equipment or the liquor, which happens a lot across Portmore, especially since COVID. Then they go to that locale. The greater issue, just one more point. The greater issue for me, were I the Prime Minister, I would want first and foremost to be that citizen. If no other citizen did it, if I were Prime Minister, I would want to be that citizen that respects the law that currently exists. With respect to the Parish Court Act, that has not been achieved.
Just a correction though, Mr. Price. They deal with more than petty sessions, or they are now called lay magistrate matters there. But be that as it may. But continue your point, Mr. Price, and then bring back in Mr. Edwards, because I want to get a conclusion from both of you how to go forward. Mr. Price, could you finish quickly?
All right. So to go forward, one of the first things that I believe is required is the decisions or the discussions about what the actual boundaries of the parish would be. There is boundaries, and I'm going to tell you why that's important. There's a dichotomy in Portmore. Portmore is the only place that has a directly elected mayor, which is a positive step for the local governance architecture in the country. Every ballot that is cast in East Central St. Catherine, Southeast St. Catherine, and South St. Catherine, unfortunately, does not go in counting to select the mayor. There are some polling divisions which are excluded. My question, therefore, would be if the new parish would include all of the polling divisions in East Central St. Catherine, or are we to assume that the parish boundary will relate to those polling divisions where the ballot goes in selecting our directly elected mayor? I believe that if we, since the resolution has already passed the Houses of Parliament, and drafting instructions are to be given to the cabinet to come back to the parliament with a bill to establish Portmore as the 15th parish, then we should now get on with the details of what that parish would constitute.
Well, hold that thought, Mr. Price. As you did say, not enough time in this first watch for a fulsome discussion. Maybe not indeed. Mr. Edwards, any final comments you want to make? Mr. Price, for example, said we need to set the boundaries. Any other comments?
The issue of the boundary, though, is a key point. And Dr. Andrew Wheatley would have been the most appropriate person, because he was the person who actually chaired the committee to actually establish. But that would have already been established. While it is not, it was not said publicly, but that would have already dealt with in the document. You know, so there has to be a boundary.
It's not in the document.
The current boundary, as you rightly said, all right, does not allow for some persons to vote for the mayor. But on the other hand, I think they need to formalize the areas that are actually excluded. But of course, there has to be a boundary. No parish can be established without a clear boundary, you know. And the government would have been properly advised in that regard, legally advised in that regard. Back to the idea of the court, though, because once you have legal or judicial matters being dealt with, right, be it called a petty session or an official courthouse or building, that as this person want to say. So if calling the building the court, right, or calling the concept of conducting the business of legal affairs, right, the court, then that's two separate matters, right. The fact that we are now conducting a business in Portmore, judicial business in Portmore, right, legal affairs, we could actually say there's a courthouse there. What would actually need to be done is to improve the infrastructure, right? That's what you call the courthouse.
No, just a sec, Courtney. It's not the physical infrastructure. The law states the nature of cases up to for civil cases up to a maximum of I don't quote me on this, but there's an established cash limit of about $100 million.
$1 million.
Right, that must be done in a parish court. There is also established in law some criminal matters. So it's not about a building, it's about responding to, respecting, and following the law, the current law, not a new law about a parish, current law.
Mr. Price and Mr. Edwards, Mr. Price, you did say there's not enough time in this first watch for this topic. And you probably were predicting very correctly because we are now totally out of time. I want to thank Mr. Edwards for being with us in this segment, as well as Mr. Price. Very interesting conversation. And I would love us to have a second discussion to complete in a fulsome way what we need to discuss for this. It's very important. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Now with no processing fees and no down payment, it's time to open the door to your own sweet home. The time by JN Bank is
7:31 right here on Love 101.
Massey Group will be 100 years, and that's significant. We've survived all sorts of wild, crazy things that have happened. It's really thriving.
People don't just buy a product, right? They buy how you make them feel and whether your values align to theirs.
Massey differentiates ourselves because we believe that when we are all successful, the region is going to be more successful.
Learn more at burrito.com/Massey.
What a good thing to get the third party, brata.
Third-party car insurance just got a whole lot better at Key Insurance. Just add Brata to your third-party motor insurance policy and get collision coverage for your vehicle plus protection to the other driver. Request a quote online at keyinsurancejm.com or call 888-CALL-KEY. It's a third-party Brata. Extra protection, extra savings, and extra peace of mind. Conditions apply.
Sagicor e-advantage, bank with ease, as you please, like a breeze, pay no fees, rain or shine, save your time, it's so fine when you bank online.
There's a savings account that meets your need for speed and ease. Sagicor Bank e-advantage, bank electronically, no monthly fees, unlimited, free Sagicor Bank ABM withdrawals, interest on your money.
Bank with ease, as you please, like a breeze, pay no fees.
Open your account today, Sagicor Bank in your corner.
Need to fill your prescription but want to avoid the crowd? Come to Bliss Family Pharmacy. Enjoy personalized consultation with our experienced pharmacist about your medication. Discounts for the elderly and home delivery. Bliss Family Pharmacy, conveniently located at 18 Kingsland Avenue beside Dunn's Electrical on Red Hills Road. Call 876-678-6979 or 876-678-MyRx. WhatsApp your prescription or pick up curbside today. Come feel like family at Bliss Family Pharmacy.
It's time for you to tell us what songs kept you going through 2021. Listen carefully to these instructions for round 1. Send us a WhatsApp to 876-224-5398 between Monday, February 7 a.m. through to Wednesday, February 9 at 8 p.m. List your top 3 songs done by Jamaican gospel artists and 1 song done by an international artist. The songs must have been aired on Love 101. Get it? Got it? Good! Again. Here are the steps for round 1. List your top 3 songs done by Jamaican gospel artists and 1 song done by an international artist that kept you going through 2021. Songs that were played on Love 101. Send your list via WhatsApp or regular text to 876-224-5398. 1 text per number. Only the lists that came in between Monday, February 7 at 7 a.m. through to Wednesday, February 9 at 8 p.m. will be acknowledged. So, think about your songs and get ready to send us your songs, then get ready for round 2. Listeners' picks for 2021 hits right here on the family station Love 101.
Back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspaper, see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. We have here in the Gleaner, tallest building in Jamaica gets regulatory approval. More of that at page C2 of the Gleaner. We also have in the Gleaner, gas pain, hike in pump prices, rocks motorists, businesses. That story by Jordana Murphy of the Gleaner. We have here in the Observer a piece here by Jason Cross. Rival gangsters engage in friendly activities in Parade Gardens. Looks like a pretty interesting story here. Listeners can take a look at that in the Observer. Further afield, we have in Europe, French President Emmanuel Macron said Tuesday that Russian President Vladimir Putin told him that Moscow would not further escalate the Ukraine crisis. Those and many other stories in both major daily newspapers. Coming up next, we'll read some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question, which is, what are your thoughts on the further delaying of local government elections? If you haven't done so yet, leave your comments on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp your comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Love 101 FM, the family station, is celebrating 29 years of service to Jamaica. And on Sunday, February 13th, we will pause to say thank you, Father God, for all you have done. It's our 29th anniversary under the theme, We Are on the Move. In Him we live and move and have our being. The service of Thanksgiving will be held at the Portmore Missionary Church at 8 a.m. and it will be live on Love Television, Love 101 FM's social media platforms, and on Love 101 Radio, the family station.
Anniversary day
just round the corner,
celebrating all
the gift from the Father.
God, how you good?
How you love we so?
93 till now.
You never let we go.
Come Monday, February 14.
Celebrate all day upon the big sea
with the family of listeners and announcers them.
Love 101 for everybody, my friend.
It went nice, you see. Oh yes, celebration turn up. This Monday, February 14 is Love 101 Anniversary Day. 7 to 8 a.m.
I remember when
10 to 11 a.m.
celebration begin.
1 to 2 p.m.
Drop a word from the rhythm.
We are on the move.
All glory to Him.
God, how you good?
How you love we so?
93 till now.
You never let we go.
Anniversary.
29th
anniversary.
Anniversary.
We are on the move.
Anniversary.
Love 101 a groove.
Anniversary.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Well, let's take a look. Russian, any comments so far? None as yet. Feedback question.
None as yet, my friend.
Let's see. I see we move right into the second watch. Well, local government elections are due. However, there has been a decision to postpone them for another 12 months. How is this going down with all concerned? What does this mean? Are there any pros and cons to this decision? We have online today to have a discussion around this. Nadine Spence, social and political commentator, and Reverend Dr. Ralston Nemard, also a social commentator. Nadine Spence, Reverend Nemard, good day to you both. How are you?
Good morning, Stokely. Good morning, Nadine.
Good morning, Reverend Nemard. How are you?
Very well, thanks, and good morning to your viewers.
Wonderful. Now, gentlemen and lady and gentlemen, it is now a done deal in terms of the postponement of the local government elections. Well, what are your thoughts on this? You know, sometimes we get the sense, not saying in every case, not saying in this case even, but local government sometimes seems to not be treated with the same level of urgency at a national level as the national elections for the election of members of parliament. Maybe it's just a perception out there. But what are your comments and thoughts, for example, on the postponement and, you know, postponed for how long? We know that it can be postponed up to a certain time, but should it be brought forward maybe within that band of time? Starting with you, Nadine Spence, what are your thoughts? And good day again.
Good day. I think one of the things that has happened, that has been happening over time, is that we're seeing the local government election being used as a kind of litmus test for national elections. So political parties and in this case government and opposition look forward to the local government election, but only as an indication, as almost like a poll of what the next election will look like. And because it is treated this way, it's not given the respect that it needs. So there's a way in which there is constitutional change that is necessary to allow for local government elections to be managed, the date to be set, and for the date to be so institutionalized that it cannot be used in the way that it is being used now. And we see it as well with other ways that citizens can participate in our democracy. So, for example, the idea of using a referendum on certain critical issues. We see people not wanting to use referendum because, again, it is being seen as a litmus test. And if a party in power doesn't want there to be a clear indication of how it is likely to look in the next election, it will continue to delay or not use the options that are available that indicate a deepened democracy, a more substantive kind of democracy, more ways for citizens to participate. So I think, unfortunately, it's not given the respect it deserves. And I think one of the things that as citizens we have to start thinking about is, you know, whether or not we allow for this to continue happening. If we think local government is worthy of standing on its own and is worthy of the kind of respect that it needs, and if there are any benefits to having local government not seen as a part of central government. I think the way it is viewed now, managed by a minister in central government and so on, takes away from the potential it has to be truly transformative in the lives of citizens and in communities island-wide.
Reverend Nemard, your thoughts, sir?
Yes, the first observation I'd make, Stokely, is that the postponement of local government elections is not anything new. I'm old enough to know that back in the day, they have successive governments have postponed these elections. I remember back when P.J. Patterson was prime minister in his regime, I think it might have been postponed twice, if I'm not mistaken. And there was a lot of criticism. So it's like we tend to go around in circles, you know, where this postponement of these elections are concerned, and the concern that the public has and should have about those kind of postponement. Various reasons are given for why this has to be done. And the present situation the government is suggesting, or at least has indicated that the reason for doing so is because of the pandemic. And I find that a little specious in the sense that when we had the general elections, we were in the throes of the virus. I think the Delta variant had just begun to introduce itself in the society. And yet we went ahead and had the general elections. And that's a much larger election that would concern us in the context of a pandemic. a respiratory pandemic than even local government elections, because as we are rightly saying, local government elections are not given the kind of weight that are given to general elections. And if you could have an election in the context of the pandemic, when it was still very much and still is a very serious problem to the society, on what basis now do you say you could postpone this election on that same basis? I find that's a question I ask the government.
Reverend, only because of time, Reverend, I'm going to ask you to just pause a second. We're going to take a break. Listeners, stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
1FM, the family station.
There are a million reasons to want to own a home.
I want more space for the children.
I am tired of paying rent. My wife and I want an investment. Go from future plans to keys in hand with an NCB mortgage. Get rates as low as 6.95%, 100% financing, and up to 40 years to repay. Plus, get the life insurance and home insurance you need all in one place. Visit myhome.jncb.com to get started. Conditions apply.
At Kalalutu any party where you get. Kalapati, kalapati. At Kalalutu any party where you get. Kalapati, kalapati.
Juicy patty, them sweet, them nice.
That's true.
Yeah, we at the right price. One patty no better, you buy two.
They mix the party with the nice Kalalu.
New
combo alert! Add Kalalu to any party. Kalapati, kalapati. And if you want, add some cheese.
At all Juicy patty locations, island wide.
Conditions apply. Kalapati, kalapati.
Massey Group will be 100 years, and that's significant. We've survived all sorts of wild, crazy things that have happened. It's really thriving.
People don't just buy a product, right? They buy how you make them feel and whether your values align to theirs.
Massey differentiates ourselves because we believe that when we are all successful, the region is going to be more successful.
Learn more at barita.com/Massey.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the second watch, and we're having a very interesting discussion with Nadine Spence, social and political commentator, and Reverend Dr. Ralston Nemard, social commentator. The topic is views on delaying of local government elections. Just before the break, Reverend Nemard, you were outlining to us the matter of the fact that we had general elections at a time when to try to sum up what you're saying, there might have even been a greater risk. Is that what you're saying, Reverend? Or was that what you were saying, Reverend Nemard?
All right. I was thinking that the general elections, of course, are going to have more people out there and more engagement with the process. And, there were a lot of criticisms about people not observing the protocols and so on, even the politicians themselves as they campaigned. And it's a very difficult proposition to campaign and not mingle with people. And so that's why I believe it posed a greater risk then. And if it was okay to go ahead with the elections then, why is it so compelling this time to use the argument that you cannot have elections, you can postpone the elections on the basis of the virus, when even in this variant, we know that it is not as horrible as was the Delta. So that's why I'm trying to figure out what is really the story behind the story, because the story cannot be from the government for it to be compelling that we are doing so because of the pandemic.
I don't want to get into anybody's mind, but let us take a quick look at Radio Jamaica News online story online dated Friday, February 4th, 2022, 7:05 p.m. Local government elections postponed until next February, and I'll read bits of it. The government is postponing the election until February next year, that will be 2023, on the basis of continued high COVID infections. The next line then goes like this: but opposition Senator Lambert Brown argue that the government is using the pandemic as an excuse. The next, Mayor of Kingston, Delroy Williams, dismissed those arguments, suggesting that if the government was being political, it would have gone ahead with the election last November when it was initially due. Your thoughts on that, Nadine Spence, and then Reverend Nemard. Nadine Spence?
Yeah, as I said before, I think there are some, Stokely, we can't keep leaving this in the hands of the government to make. You know, they use it for expedience. As Reverend Nemard pointed out, this is something that both parties do, because they see it as, you know, it's an indication of what is likely to come in the next election. And if political parties don't feel as if they're in a good place politically at the moment, they're not going to hold an election if it's up to them. Remember, political parties are in the business of staying in power. And so we have to, as citizens, we have to ask our governments to change that law. We need more education around why we have these elections. Why do we have local government elections? And what is the purpose of local government? Is it just a smaller part of big government, or is it necessary for the effective functioning of the country? We don't know those things as citizens. You know, what does a mayor do? What's the point of a councillor? What should a citizen require of the councillor and the mayor? And if they are effective in their responsibilities, how are they likely to impact the way we live and the way we engage each other in communities? And if it is that this is likely to have a positive impact on how we live, on perhaps even the crime rate, perhaps we will start thinking that, no, man, you know, we really need to have local government elections. It's not okay for government to treat the local government election as their football. They have it if they feel that they have a good standing in the polls, or if they don't feel like they're going to look good, they don't have it. So I think we have to decide, you know, what system would make it work. Do we need local government then to manage itself? Do we need to have the electoral office manage local government election? Do we need to set the dates in the constitution so they cannot be manipulated? Do we need to ensure that we get constitutional change so that it cannot be pushed back with no sensible reason? Because I firmly believe, as I said at the beginning, governments use it as a litmus test for general elections. And if they don't see the value in having an election, and if there's no political consequence to it, if the citizenry is not aware of why we have local government elections, then they're going to continue to use it, because that's what political parties do. They're seeking to stay in power. So we can't give them that amount of power if this is important to us. So we know why. All of us know why. We know why. The question is it important for us to change the status quo? Is it important for us to re-engage this narrative about our local government? What do we require of it, and so on? And I think that's what as citizens we need to do. We need to stop wondering. We know. The question is, do we continue to tolerate the reasons that we get? Do we continue to tolerate the status quo? I'm not hearing you for some reason, Stokely. I don't know why I'm not hearing you. But I didn't hear you.
Your mic is off. Yeah,
Reverend Nemard, do you think the average, well, first of all, I apologize for that. It seemed to be that I might have been muted.
Yes, you're right.
Do people really care as to whether or not these elections are postponed or not? Do they put a premium on it? Does the average person really think it's relevant, so relevant to their day-to-day lives that they need to concern themselves whether there is, for example, a fixed election date for local government elections, much less national elections? Reverend Nemard?
Yes, I'm sure there's not going to be a hue and cry about the postponement for the same reason that Nadine was saying there. I mean, they don't really take the election that seriously, certainly not as they do the general. I mean, local government elections are the Cinderella of elections in Jamaica. And, you know, the urgent need is for reform. Whether we're going to have, as Nadine said, a fixed date for these elections, and whether we're going to perhaps have, you know, I remember the argument sometimes back. I remember when under the Edward Seaga administration, and that's the closest we came to serious reform of the local government system. That is when they started to pay parish councillors and so on. But there was a serious argument about the reform of the system. And part of what was discussed was whether you could have, you know, 3 regions of representation, you know, for in the country, like the Cornwall, I think was one, Middlesex and Surrey. And now we have Portmore, that could be an independent entity by itself. But whether we want a multiplicity of these parish councils or whether we should collapse them into 3 regional entities, and we can have the elections and we have the mayor, for example, being directly elected and so on. But we haven't heard much about that kind of conversation anymore. And so we have just toddled along, you know, with the way we have been doing things. And it's become a bit irrelevant in the minds of a lot of Jamaicans. So to answer your question quickly, I don't see that there's going to be any great concern that it has been postponed. I mean, people are busy with other things. They're busy with the pandemic. They're busy with the ways in which their lives have been upended by the pandemic, to be worried about a Cinderella of an election.
I see. And a concern that may also be there, although not fully expressed, is that I've seen where persons have the view or the impression that at the local government level, it doesn't necessarily attract persons who appear to conduct themselves as they would on the national level. And persons think that all councillors do is help to fix roads or help to get resources to fix roads and drains. But clearly it must be much more than that. Do you think the perception that's out there of the typical councillor is part of the challenge? We may not regard them as being as relevant or as necessary or having the prestige of a member of parliament. Is that also affecting this, or is it just that, or maybe it's not relevant at all? Reverend Nemard, and then we wrap with Ms. Spence. Reverend Nemard?
Yes, I think the quality of representation from the councillors themselves leaves a lot to be desired in so many of the divisions. And that is, and because of that, the people have come not to have a great deal of respect for the system, because their roads are to be fixed, drains are to be fixed, the verges are to be cleaned, and all these things are not being done. And people know that because they pay their taxes, they pay their property taxes and so on, that should be taking care of some of these things. And they know that their monies are not being spent in the way that it ought to be. And so the quality of the representation that we get, you know, really pushes the local government system, although it is so important because it is one of the most pervasive democratic ways in which people can participate in the life of their country. But those who sit there and represent the people in those capacities most times tend to pour more scorn on the system than you know, getting people to a position where they can really respect it and participate in it, because that was the intention, but it's not being realized.
Have to bring in Nadine Spence only because of time. Ms. Spence, in the few moments we have left, a couple seconds. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think reform is necessary. I think the whole matter of not treating local government like central government, which we tend to do, the understanding where then the council should come from and who they should be picked from is important. Understanding the role of the counties in that, as Reverend Amanda has pointed out, we have to think about how we are arranged geographically and how those things feed into the idea of local government as separate from central government. And we also have to think about what is required of local government, because even this idea of the constituency development fund and how the MPs use them tells us how we encroach on the territory of local government by the things that are required.
Thank you, Ms. Spence, and thank you, Reverend Nemard. Wish we had a little bit more time, but we have to leave it there. We're totally out of time. I want to thank both of you for being with us today. Thank you, our listeners, for being with us as well, and join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. Visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. Listen to the Morning Watch on our Love 101 app and download it today and stay connected to the family station. Love 101 FM, the #1 gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer Kathy Gale and to our guests. I am Stokely Marshall, handing it back to Love in the Morning with Rushane.
Thank you, Stokely. 801 right here on Love 101 FM, the family station, and it's now time for